We'll talk about goals. Why? Because we are today, right? We are 25% or 1/4 through the year.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
We'll talk about goals. Why? Because you crush it. Why else we talk about goals today? Because we are today, right? We are 25% or 1/4 through the year. Does it feel like that already? Yes. I don't think for me, a lot of times some people are still trying to get started. They're still trying to get their mojo, still trying to get their momentum. And so you have to understand that, hey, look, we're already 1/4 of the year. That flew by pretty quickly. Seems like it was just Christmas not long ago, right? New Year's and all this stuff. Now all of a sudden we're 1/4 into the year. Coming to one of the hottest times. And so we'll talk about the importance of 90-day challenges. And part of my challenge is, how do I think of a new way to teach you guys? Because a lot of times we have the same problems over and over. What are the problems we run into? Process, what else? I mean, from a goal standpoint. Yep. We'll talk about that a little bit too. But I'm going to help you guys just kind of refresh on what it is. And for anybody new, why we do what we do. Why we do quarterly challenges, 90-day challenges. Why we do that? More manageable. I want you guys to understand, and this is a big lesson here, that annualized thinking, like everyone else, is much inferior to quarterly challenges. What does that mean? Annualized thinking. What does annualized thinking mean? But let's break it down logically, right? Or even psychologically in a way. What's the problem with it? Okay, I agree. Let's say I do clear. I want to sell 40 houses. Right? Well, I'm going to do X amount a month. Right? The problem with the main people, let's simplify it, which is true. All that's true. Number one, the problem is there's no urgency. Why?
Got all year far away.
Yeah. Everyone thinks I got all year, so when am I going to start eating better? Start making my phone calls better. Start doing my lead follow better, right? I know how to first bad couple months, but I'll make it up when? The last few months of the year. Because people are optimistic, they're not living in a place of fact. Too many people live in a place of optimism, so the problem with that is there's no urgency. I don't understand, hey, look, here's why we do quarterly, because there has to be urgency from a timeline standpoint, just how humans are really broken into.
What does that say that's in the black?
Annualized thinking versus quarterly challenges. And so because of that no urgency, what most people do is most people just wait. So the reason we want to do that is we want to break it down into pieces, into really 12 weeks. Because then I can take the 12 weeks and break that to 1 week and then 5 days. And now all of a sudden I just win 12 weeks is a lot easier than me having to win 52 straight weeks. And so I want to understand how do I get myself into that mindset where I want to live in a quarterly challenge. And I can have a challenge where it's impossible for me to do something in 12 weeks. Because the third piece of this, what do most people do? Most people overestimate what they can do in the short term and underestimate what? It happens all the time. People say, I'm going to crush this quarter, do all these things, make these big goals, and then suddenly they don't come close to it. But if you look at how they've grown as a person over, 6, 12, sometimes, more months than that, guess what you have? You have longer growth in terms of who you are and how you show up. They thought they could, they'll still come in and we'll help them get to a place where they make a lot of money on the back end through the year. Why? How is that possible?
Because
you're still doing what? You're still growing.
Yeah.
And so this helps you play that game the right way. It's easier for me to kind of draw it out. But how it kind of works a lot of times, we talked about the gap, the pit, right? So you have the pit, and you have this overall piece here. So you have you here, you here. But a lot of people don't realize if you take this piece right here and break it down, what you have in between is what? You have 1, 2, 3, 4. What could that be? Quarters, right? Which are also known as periods of what? 12 weeks. 12 weeks, 12 weeks, 12 weeks. So my entire goal, my entire desire, my drive this entire year needs to be what? I have to get bigger and better every single 12-week period. Bigger and better every single 12-week period. And so a lot of people, I may not necessarily hit my full goal in all 4 areas and crush it all. But a lot of people, what most people realize is if I look at the overall end of the year, guess what? I did a whole lot more than I ever have my entire life. That's what we do here for people. Change dramatically. Why? Because of this concept here of pushing you very, very hard in these pieces. I take the 12 months of time and I collapse that into 12 weeks. And you can do a lot of big things in that. I think last year for my wedding, I lost 19 pounds in 12 weeks. Didn't think that was possible. But we all want to make sure we can break these things in so I can say, look, how do I become this person on December 31st of this year and grow into that and compound that every single year? There's a really good book if you want to check it out. It's called The 12-Week Year. It's pretty neat. Just talks about how people operate and how you can break it down. It's a very similar concept that we've been doing this for years. But it's important for us to have these challenges and so I can gamify that in what I do. Does that make sense for you guys in there? Second most important thing we have to do in this is we've got to make sure that we're able to keep score. What does that mean? I need to know if I'm winning or not. I need to know yes or no, am I on target? Yes or no, did I hit the goal or not? So when we do our 12-week goals going forward, you need to make sure you're doing some that are like, hey, I hit this, yes or no, period. Yes or no, it happened. Okay, it needs to be something that I can measure daily. So I got to make sure I'm able to measure daily. Now, the point of doing this is here's who I am at the end of the year. Here's me each quarter. Here's my 12-week target, 12-week target, 12-week target. Right? I'm going back and looking at this, and my goal is how do I take the 12-week target here and I break that down into 1-week goals. And my 1-week goal, guess where it goes? Right here. It's my 4 keys in one thing. And I take that and break that obviously into what? Daily. So what I'm able to do is break this into small pieces here so I can look at it and say, did I measure daily? Because I win the day over and over and over. Then I win the week. Then I win the 12 weeks. And that's how I win the quarter. But there has to be really a hyper-awareness when I'm doing. The also thing it does, it also makes it fun. It's a way to gamify life so I can get traction in how I operate. I know I'm winning or not winning, how I avoid burnout. Most people are winning, they don't even know they're winning. And they can't figure out why they wake up 2 months later burned out. Because they don't know they've been doing the work and they can't tell they're winning or not. They're just spinning tires. They call that traction. But I'll tell you, here's one crazy thing I was reading about and thought about. The only reason you watch a sports match is to what? See who wins. Otherwise, if no one's keeping score in a sports match, are you going to watch it? And you got to figure out, hey, look, here's what I want overall. And long term. Right? Super important for me to have that piece there. So I want to make sure I'm breaking that piece into micro wins in that scenario. Got to know if I'm winning or not. And the fourth piece it gives me here is accountability. Because we're human. It's very easy to get off track. We go back to what? Our old habits, our old patterns, our old desires. And a lot of times it goes back to where we're most comfortable. And so I got to make sure I'm understanding this quarter. How do I make sure I can keep much better score in how I'm operating and how I'm doing this within my quarterly challenge? Because if I don't do it for you, you got to make sure you do it when no one's watching. And I think, Ryan, you made a great point there. You just got to the habit. When do you look at your goals? Super important, that piece. Allows me to have hyper-focus here as well. What's hyper-focus mean? No one knows? Hyper-focus. What is it? Come on. Yep. Focus on things that get you paid that matter the most. And so if I know that the problem with a 12-month annualized thinking is that I don't have any focus because people wait to the long term, that's how I break it down to 12 weeks into once a week, and I have a way to keep score so I can hyper-focus when? Daily, right? Have all my targets and do it in that scenario, which is super important for us. Very, very important piece there in that scenario. Third thing I want to do. I want to align it with my habits. What does that mean? Why is that in there? Align with my habits. Well, go back to what I taught you guys last week, right? What happens to most people? I'm super what? Motivated to do some stuff. Then all of a sudden, what happens? Has anybody seen this happen here? Motivation and 90-day goals. 3 weeks later is all of a sudden what? Gone out the window. So what we're teaching here is a science of understanding the psychology of how humans operate, and I want to build that around myself and how I can make sure I'm doing that good. Okay, and so obviously, We're able to break that down. So I'm going to line up my habits with that. And it helps you look at a macro versus micro. Or you do micro versus macro, either one. What are the small things that I'm doing daily to execute to do what? Get the big results. And so first of all, I need to start investigating that, understanding, hey, look, what needs to be done? What needs to happen? What I need to make sure I build into my habits this 90 days so I can do it. This is what's going to get you through to get you actually have success on the back end and knock these out. Anytime I look at people who haven't gotten success in the 90-day challenges, what they come down to is they haven't done what? Build the habits. Right? What I notice is they haven't built the habits in to make the change to become the person they are. It's like Alex said, the problem, the reason they can't get up here, because this person here, this guy or this girl is not able to be here. How do we know that? Because if they were, they would already be there. You're not the same man or same woman as you are here, so you got to do what? Build the habits to help build the man. Build the habits to help build a woman in terms of who you are here and how I got to go. And so I got to make sure I get very purposeful these 90 days about building the habits that's going to get me where I want to go. I haven't talked about that as much in the past. I think it's important for me to look at, understand in that scenario. And I build the habits, like I mentioned earlier, a little earlier, is daily, weekly, monthly. I have to really plan to win against myself. So as I've done this a few times, right? If you've done this a few times, you look back and say, hey, look, where do I get off track? And what usually keeps me getting off track? And then how do I build habits around that in terms of me doing the work, what needs to happen in terms of who I am, what I'm looking at? And the habits are going to help you make the change, but also keep the change. A lot of times people that don't build the habits and they can't sustain and maintain the change. And so if you look back, we go through review 9 days in a few minutes, I want you to go look, where could I build habits that make me a lot more effective? Where can I build habits that allow me to have more power? And it's super important for us to look at and understand that. And the fourth piece here is the habits are going to help me build, make sure I have a powerful foundation. Which are going to help push you the days that you don't feel like doing it. But it's going to take a combination of a few things. Switches again, the colors, I guess. And the fourth reason I run into, what I know a lot of people do when they screw up, is they don't understand the difference between interest and commitment. This is one of the biggest reasons I see this happen. The difference between interest and commitment, who knows what that means? So interest means I say I want to do it, I act like I want to do it, and I truly believe myself that I want to do it. But when it comes down to the rubber hitting the road, the commitment does not line up with my interest. That's the key part here. I wrote down my notes too. Commitment is a state of being bound emotionally and intellectually to a course of action. Commitment is a state of being bound emotionally and intellectually to a course of action. And here's a big simple one. The difference between interest and commitment is that we only do the things we are interested in when we feel like it. But with commitment, we make no excuses. One more time. The difference between interest and commitment is we only do things that we're interested in when we feel like it. But with commitment, we make no excuses. The power of taking that mindset, aligning it with my habits here that I built out and understand, a way to score that and have that with my 90-day, 12-week challenge, that's my secret weapon to dominate this year. While the average agents are falling off, or they're getting frustrated, low inventory, while interest rates are going up, you're going to start seeing a lot of agents fall off. Why? Because it gets really hard. And you have this power here. This is how you dominate and continue to make sure that you can really win this 90 days here coming up, this 12-week period, when it's full of distraction. One of the most distraction-filled quarters is second quarter. Why? Nice outside, weather, festivals. And so I have to be, and that's cool, you can enjoy that, but also make sure what comes first. This, the work. Very, very important for me to understand that and have that piece there, what it is. Right? Wrote down here, most are only interested in change. The reason I have change here because to get the outcome that you want and to be the person that you want, to really get the money you want, the lifestyle you want, you have to make a change. Because you are where you are now in the current scenario. I am where I am in my current scenario, right? Which is a different level where I was at, but it's not where I want to be. And so I have to be understanding I need to have a commitment to change. So when it comes into week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, then guess what I got to do? I have to go back to, am I committed to this or just interested in it? And And I got to be able to ask myself that question, look in the mirror, and really be truthful about what I'm seeing here. And why I taught on this today, after I taught this whole scenario 20 times, is that this is what happens. After 4 weeks, everybody falls off a cliff. And so I want to make sure I'm going back to this piece of saying committed versus interested. Right? I must make a commitment to owning you. Must make a commitment to owning you. What does that mean, you think? You're only going to be able to hold your clients as accountable as you are to yourself. Right?
It's easy to do that when you do that to yourself.
Yep. And so a lot of people, here's the crazy thing. People want to lose weight. And then what happens? People don't want to lose weight. They may not do the work, and all of a sudden what happens? They're not even willing to step on the scale. Like literally. So I can't step on the scale. I'm not doing what? Owning me. I got to make sure I'm able to look in that mirror and say, here's what I'm doing. Here's the reality of the facts where I'm at, and I'm able to make that change based on the facts. And if most people would just take the time to look in the mirror and feel the facts, they'd have enough motivation to actually move that short-term move they need to make, which could be changing the diet, working out, going to the gym, whatever it is in that scenario. Third piece of this, which is important, is I want to make sure I'm committed to doing keystone actions. But keystone action is something specific. I'm looking for it. I finally found the definition I had. A keystone action is a few core activities that account for majority of your results. A few core activities that account for majority of your results. I want to be very, very hyper aware of what are my keystone activities this 90 days in my specific area. That could be what? New business, sign clients, right? Contracts written, accepted. My diet, to actually go to the gym. I need to track the keystone activities and make sure I'm doing what really is giving me the most leverage in terms of that. But what most people do is back to the 80-20 rule. What are the 20% of things I can do that give me 80% of results I want in the back end? And be really, really hyper-focused on staying committed to those even when I don't feel like it. Because why? Interest is what? What's interest again?
Something you do when you feel like it.
Something you only do when you feel like it. Commitment is something you do regardless of how you feel. Because why? You committed to it. And that's super, super important in that piece. Right? And the fourth thing I must make sure I'm doing this 90 days is I must make sure I have action. So act on my commitments, not my feelings. Right? If you learn to do the things that you need to do despite your feelings, you're going to be successful. What I notice we get a lot of times challenged in the back end and look back and really take inventory today.